Welcome to the all-new Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, powered by the Recovery Room. This morning's Sports Carnival is a little bit like the cocaine bear taking a shit on your front porch. You're one part amused, one part terrified, and two parts just saying, what the fuck just happened? I'm Dave Carney, and sitting behind me is Matt from the Recovery Room. Top of the morning, Matt from the Recovery Room. What a Super Bowl Sunday we had. We have got a whole lot to cover on this edition of the Sports Carnival. Matt and I are going to be breaking it down. Joe Daguanno, our Green and Gold Insider, is going to be joining the program here coming up in just a second. Patrick Mahomes made magic last night, and the Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champions once again. Patrick Mahomes joining some elite company as a two-time MVP and two-time Super Bowl winner. Our Green and Gold Insider, Joe Daguanno, is joining the program this morning. Joe, it's early. We're super glad to have you aboard today. I know that you're traveling to parts unknown. Let's just jump right into Super Bowl 57. The Chiefs end up edging out the Eagles. This is a game that I think lived up to all the expectations. It surely did, as far as I was concerned, with one respect, the total, because that was my play of the week on ESPN here on the show. I wanted this thing to go over 50 and to have total points, Joe. It did exactly as I had hoped. It was basically over as far as the total was concerned by the early portion of the second half. Let's go with your thoughts on Super Bowl 57, Joe, because I'm sure there's a lot of different takes that you have on it. What did you think overall of this game and the Chiefs coming out winners?
Well, first of all, I was disappointed that Shy Ronnie did not come out at halftime with Rihanna. So that's my biggest disappointment. Is I was hoping Shy Ronnie would be there with her, but look, going into the game, I said this, that I think that sideline of the Kansas City Chiefs, and when I talk about the sideline, I talk about Andy Reid, and I talk about Steve Spagnuolo, and you look at the experience that those guys brought to the table, and halftime at half, it did not look good for the Chiefs, but everyone kind of felt like, you know what, they kind of still got this thing, and you kind of could see it coming and building, and of course Patrick Mahomes put himself in rarefied air with that performance. Again, MVP regular season, MVP Super Bowl. I mean, it just doesn't get any better for the kid right now. And when I say the kid, I mean the kid, because this guy has so much football ahead of him. But the team that Andy Reid and the personnel department have put together, and again, I don't want to make this a beat-up Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers segment, but both quarterbacks lost a number one wide receiver going into this year. Now, look at what the Packers front office did to replace that, and they were relying on one guy, Sammy Watkins. And the Chiefs go out, and they get Juju Smith-Schuster, and they get Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and then they get Kadarius Toney. And so they're going out and being aggressive, while Green Bay, again, you got to like the future of Watson and Dobbs. They didn't do what they needed to do to get over the hump this year. So the whole organization, and I just say, first of all, I think Andy Reid is a class act. I think, Patrick Mahomes, I think right now this kid is looking like the face of the NFL moving forward. You got to tip your hat to the Kansas City Chiefs and the organization. And I will say this, I agree with Greg Olson. That hold at the end there on the cornerback for Philadelphia, you got to swallow your whistle at that point. And I will tell you, I don't even think that pass was catchable at the end there. But that notwithstanding, I tip my hat to the Kansas City Chiefs. I tip my hat to the Philadelphia Eagles, because the way they built their team around Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts had a hell of a game. Again, it was a great Super Bowl. Kind of going in the direction I figured it would. I said all along, I think those sidelines are the key difference maker between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, taking nothing away from the Eagles coaching staff, but when you got coaches who have been there, it makes a difference.
I think that there's two things that I want to touch on. One, the coaches for the Philadelphia Eagles, which I'm not sure that I was alone in this, gave a whole lot of shit to when they hired Nick Sirianni and this coaching staff. It looked like an abject failure just waiting to happen, an implosion that was just moments from becoming reality, it's been nothing of the sort. And Sirianni and his staff deserve a ton of credit. The other thing is Jalen Hurts. As good as Patrick Mahomes played yesterday, and he did, he played exceptional football, except for that one fumble in the first half where Hurts and the Eagles are up 14-7, and the ball slips out of his hand. He's going to move it from his right to his left, it looks like, and the ball just seems to slip out of his hands. Obviously, Kansas City scoops and scores. Outside of that play, Jalen Hurts was the best offensive player on the field. Jalen Hurts was stunning, had 70 rushing yards, also another bet that I made over 49.5 total rushing yards for 3 scores on the ground, Joe, and he was exceptional through the air. This is one running quarterback that I thought last night as I'm watching him play that may actually be able to disrupt the narrative that running quarterbacks, A, can't play for extended years, and B, can't win the big game. If he wasn't matched up against a guy who in basketball terms is Magic Johnson or a Larry Bird or somebody of that sort, I think that he wins that Super Bowl. And for the Eagles, listen, they don't have a forever window, but they still have a window because of the way that they have structured this team. Drafted most, I think all of their starters they actually drafted that were playing on the field yesterday. This team is built for at least another run or two. And Joe, this is where I go back to a Packers take because we were hanging out at the Recov last night with a whole bunch of Packer fans. What are Green Bay fans going to think if Rodgers leaves the team? And the NFC is essentially wide open for Philadelphia. Like, I cannot envision a team in the AFC that wants to have to go against Buffalo and Baltimore and Kansas City and Cincinnati and all these teams in order to reach the Super Bowl, when in the NFC, you're really looking at 1 or 2 team race. You know, if you're a Packer fan, do you look at that game and say, well, Philly's got to be the team to beat in the NFC, but the AFC's loaded. Rodgers needs to come back to the Packers.
Well, you know, look, again, you know, the parallels in football and the stories keep on coming back, because you and I talked about going back to the draft of that year. You know, you don't draft a quarterback if you're the Green Bay Packers. You don't draft Jordan Love the first round. You draft Jalen Hurts in the second round, and of course, you know, look what happened. And so, yeah, it really does kind of look at, I mean, the teeter-totter, the scales, whatever you want to call it, it's tipping way in the fucking direction of the AFC right now. And so, yeah, and if I'm Rodgers, and he starts his darkness today, all right? So he goes into darkness today. And if I'm Rodgers, it's going to take me about 3 minutes in darkness to go Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert. Over on this side, Hurts. Yeah, I'm coming back. You know, and it was interesting this weekend. And again, the story came out, and Ian Rappaport is one of those guys who I do like. I think he does a nice job. And it sounds to me, and I'm switching gears slightly to the Packers, because it sounds to me that both Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are hell-bent in not letting this turn into a Brett Favre thing. Because right now, what Ian Rappaport reported is that, you know what, if Rodgers wants to come back and be a Green Bay Packers, it sounds like a Green Bay Packer, the Green Bay Packers are going to say yes. If Rodgers wants to come back and says, you know what, guys, I think it might be good for both of us to break up, they're going to be amenable to a trade, and Rodgers has already said he would restructure his deal in a trade. So it sounds like to me that, first of all, we're going to know free agency, and the end of the NFL season starts at the end of this month. I mean, the new NFL clock starts ticking in about 20 days right now. So when you look at it, even less than that. So I think this thing's not going to drag on, but it sounds like to me, based on Rappaport's report, that the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers are hell-bent that this thing is not going to be a Brett Favre-like divorce, which, if that happens, kudos to both sides, because I think that's the best solution. But getting back to that Super Bowl, again, you look at, and one of the positions in football, and you know I've talked about this and harped on this, and I had 2 boys play this position myself as a father. The tight end position, no matter what level you're at, and you saw Dallas Goedert make some plays, but Travis Kelce, when Mahomes needed a play to be made, he knew exactly where to go. And some of those offensive patterns that they're scheming Kelce open, it's fun to watch that. From a football purist standpoint, I just think there's no better position at any level, if you have a dominating tight end, you can take over games and you can win games from an offensive side of the ball. So it was fun to see Travis Kelce, that defense, the way it was built, the lines of both the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. You saw textbook line play yesterday on the offensive line on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, it was a good football game. And, it was a great football game. It was a fun football game. It was the way the Super Bowl fucking should be, and a great way to end the season. Again, my only regret besides Shy Ronnie not making an appearance is that PI call, that holding call at the end of the game.
So it's interesting that you bring that up, Joe, because that is this morning's poll question on both our Twitter feed and our Facebook group page. What was the worst part of Super Bowl 57? Because there was a lot to love about Super Bowl 57. But in your estimation, was the worst part the PI? Was it the Super Bowl halftime show? Or was it the Super Bowl commercials? Which, again, I didn't get to listen to exactly as much because I was down at the Recov and hosting a bunch of friends. But what I did see didn't impress me. So in your estimation, was it the PI then that was the worst part of it? Because that seems to be leading our poll. At least it is on our Twitter feed at The Sports Carney. 71.4% of respondents say that was the worst part of the whole thing.
Yeah, here's the thing is I've given up on Super Bowl commercials a long time ago. I really kind of tune out when it comes to Super Bowl commercials. The biggest takeaway from the commercials was how many fucking movies are coming out. And Indiana Jones, man.
That looked pretty cool.
I mean, when Harrison Ford is 100 years old and still pulling out the bullwhip, I mean, that's impressive. And so look, I kind of tuned those out, so I've got low expectations. I've kind of, the Super Bowl halftime show, everyone knows it's lip-synced. Everyone knows it's highly produced. Everyone knows that going in. So if your expectation, if the bar is low going in, you don't have to worry about getting disappointed. That PI call. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, let me shoehorn this in, though, real quick, Joe, because this brings up something I was thinking about yesterday. The Super Bowl halftime show from last year, which, again, may have only appealed to guys in my particular age range, and I don't know how far, it went above or beyond, but that was one of the highest-rated Super Bowl halftime shows in memory, and it was awesome. It was a banger. I think the expectation coming off of last year's show made this year's show feel, at least from what I saw, because, again, I didn't get to hear it. I got to watch it. But the things that I heard in the aftermath were that it was terrible. It was lip synced. It was not high energy enough. And I'm like, with you, in many respects, this is what we get used to, except for last year when they put on such a spectacle and Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and all these guys did their thing. That was sort of, to me, a hard bar to jump over, right? Like coming off of last year's Super Bowl halftime show, which made itself, I think, its own feature film or something. They've got like a DVD out for that thing. And then, of course, you've got this coming up here. It's just that, to me, is the big difference.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think, and again, Greg Olson, who it sucks that Tom Brady's going to take his place as lead color guy on Fox, because I think Greg Olson is fantastic.
Me too.
And Olson said, he's like, oh man, yeah, I get it. There's a hold there, but if you look at where the pass ended up. And I know you can't do this as a ref. You can't wait until you see the pass. But that was a throwaway. That was a throwaway by Mahomes. There was no way that was going to be caught. That was a really minor hold at that point of the game. And again, I don't want to say that Kansas City didn't deserve to win. I don't want anyone to say that whatsoever. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying that. They deserve to win the ball game. But to have it end that way, and not have Philadelphia have a real legit shot at coming down and tying it or winning it or whatever, it was disappointing. So I would say out of the three, because my expectations are so low on the other two categories, that I'm going to say it's that PI call, that holding call. And I think again, it's and I thought it was. I saw a couple people on Twitter, a couple former players on Twitter talk about the refs did such a good job of keeping themselves out of the game for the most part, that to insert themselves at that point was disappointing. But again, not at all taking anything away from the Kansas City Chiefs. They deserve to be Super Bowl champions. Patrick Mahomes right now. My question to you, DC, and this is where I threw out in Twitter this morning, because Greg Rosenthal of NFL.com last week posted, where does he rank quarterbacks who have been in the Super Bowl? All right, so he went through the whole rankings, and whether or not you won or lost in the Super Bowl doesn't matter. and he had what he called the goats, and that's that's your Peyton Manning, that's your Tom Brady, that's your Joe Montana, and then he had like Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers at like 6 and 7. He had Mahomes at 17. And again, I get it. His body of work is not done yet. He's got a lot of football ahead of him. Where do you rank Mahomes now as far as not only Super Bowl quarterbacks, but quarterbacks of all time? Does he, for me, he's already around that 10 spot for me. When you look at what he's accomplished already, take it statistics, take it awards, now take it rings. So he's already kind of, in my opinion, I'd put him 9 or 10-ish top quarterbacks of all time. Where does he sit with you?
Yeah, he'd probably have to be in that 10 spot too. And we started going through this a little bit last week. I can't put him in the top 5 yet because he isn't retired yet. And you got to throw somebody out in order to put him in the list, right?
Yep.
But top 10, I don't think you can really argue. And this is something that we'll continue to talk about this morning, Joe, because Patrick Mahomes puts himself in rarefied air, winning that second MVP first, and then winning his second Super Bowl and Super Bowl MVP. That's really the rarefied air that he's in, with multiple Super Bowl MVPs, multiple rings, and multiple regular season MVPs. We know that at 27 years old, in today's NFL anyways, he's got another decade, another 10 years ostensibly of playing at least a pretty high level. So a lot of the records that we see, passing yards and touchdowns, those will probably all go to him at a certain point because the league's different. But if he continues to win at this particular level, right now he's already in my top 10, he'll end up possibly challenging Tom Brady for the best quarterback of all time. If this guy wins 5 Super Bowls, there will be arguments to make that he was greater than Tom Brady. I'm not saying that that will win or that argument is going to be the one that sticks, but it will be an argument. It will be a conversation. Honestly, I didn't think, even up until yesterday, this guy was going to be able to reach that kind of rarefied air because it just seems so insurmountable. Now I'm not so sure because this thing looks like really special. And we've seen a few of these guys in multiple sports throughout the years, and they consistently upset the narrative. And the script writers were getting some text in on this, like from Rob Dog. It said, I knew the script writers would have the Eagles choke for their golden boy in Mahomes. Well, if that is the case, and if the NFL script writers are doing their job, they've picked themselves both winning foils in the Philadelphia Eagles and a really good heroine in Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City team. Because that's the other thing, Joe. It feels like Mahomes, the Chiefs, Andy Reid, this whole staff, Travis Kelce, they feel like likable football players. It feels like a football team of old. It really does. When the Green Bay Packers won with Favre and, the Minister of Defense, Reggie White, whose jersey was on full display last night. By the way, Morning Wood showed up proud in that Reggie White jersey. Those were teams that you looked at and said, man, I can wrap my arms around these guys, right? These are a group of fellas that we really want to pull for. And that's where Kansas City is too. So, Joe, it's top 10 now. He could be top 5 by the end of next year. I mean, seriously, this guy goes back to another Super Bowl and wins one. Yeah, he's a top 5 quarterback next year.
Yeah, and just to end on this note, the other thing that you could put in your disappointing category, you got to get Terry Bradshaw off the fucking award, the trophy thing at the end.
I love this.
It's like, why in the hell are you going to ask Andy Reid? I mean, you basically say you're an old fuck, and when are you going to retire, Andy? And Andy's looking at him like, dude, I just won the fucking Super Bowl. Don't piss in my Cheerios, man. I mean, it was the most bizarre take. And I'm like, Terry, just shut the fuck up and go back to selling Doritos and Mountain Dew, man. So I'm going to lump that into a disappointment potential.
Yeah, I like that, Joe. And I'll leave you with this. You mentioned the commercials, which, I didn't necessarily see or love all of, but we did see that Harrison Ford promo for the new Indiana Jones. That looks good. Terry Bradshaw trying to lay some ageism there on Andy Reid. The guy that was probably most excited about both Andy Reid and Indiana Jones last night was like Joe Biden. He's like, I told you guys, I'm not too fucking old. I can still do this thing. It's going to be great. Everything's going to be just fine.
Dude, all right, Joe. I will tell you. Hey, we put a bow on it. We wrapped up the season. Next week, we start talking off season, brother, and hopefully we might hear something. Rodgers, 4 days in the darkness. We might hear something by the end of the week.
Well, I hope that when he emerges, he thinks about the same things that you were thinking about: Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson coming back. I don't want anything to do with this. Let me go play in the NFC for another year, see what we can't accomplish. Joe, Thanks for jumping aboard the Sports Carnival Carousel early this morning. We're running for the first time without Chad this morning, so we're still kind of getting used to how this all goes, but we appreciate you being part of the program, brother. It's great to see your face. Always good to hear you.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
Take care. What can I say? The Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi Street is not only my favorite bar in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin, it's my favorite restaurant in all of downtown La Crosse, Wisconsin. Breakfast served 8 to noon, Saturday and Sundays, daily specials, incredible cocktails, and the best damn wait staff in the entire city. My buddy Matt knows how to treat you right, and that's why when you go to the Recovery Room on 7th and Mississippi, you're always going to have a great time and a great meal with a great cocktail. So if you haven't been in a while, or perhaps you're just a regular and you want to stop in again, make it a thing. I'm there every single week. How about you?
Do you have a wedding, anniversary party, or bat mitzvah coming up in your life? Then you need Hey Duda DJ Services, featuring Neil Duda, the Midwest Eminem.
No doubt about it, I'm hammered, and that's every day. Brains are cloudy, dog.
Dropping sick beats while you enjoy your treats. No party is too big or too small. Quinceañeras, graduations, ice cream socials, or cocktail parties. Whatever the celebration, Hey Duda is rocking the foundation.
Here we go again, back with all our friends. Here comes the pain.
Neil Duda.
All right, welcome back to the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. First time without Chad, and I'll tell you what, I was going back and forth with Matt from the Recovery Room, who's sitting right back here, and Matt, we were talking about the fact that for the first time now, I'm having to do all the button pushing again, and it's taken me a few minutes to, oh yeah, that's right, this is another thing Chad did. Oh wait, this is another thing.
We'll get there, brother.
That Chad did. Oh, we'll be fine. We of course missed Chad, but if you're jumping aboard right here, right now, you missed a really good take by Green and Gold insider Joe Daguanno on not only the Super Bowl 57, what his biggest disappointment was, but also what this could mean implication-wise for the Green Bay Packers. We've got another Facebook user here, Matty, jumping up and saying, great to hear you guys this AM. I'm on vacation in Sarasota, Florida. I believe that is Bob Ibeck, and I'd have to check over because, Bob, sometimes we can't see your name. Bob, former. Is it better in Jacksonville?
No, it's better than Jacksonville.
Oh, better than Jacksonville. What isn't better than Jacksonville? I think that became our question du jour last week. But, Bob, it's good to see you popping up this morning. I know Marengo Mike was checking in. Marengo Mike from, I think you know this area too, Matty, from Marengo, Illinois. So just outside of Huntley, it's a suburb of Chicago. Yep. Says, morning, guys, from Cancun, Mexico, where it is sunny and 80. Cheers. That sounds like somebody who is trying to trigger us.
It's jealousy.
Is it from us or from him?
I don't know. We'd like the sun, yeah, but it's not too bad for Wisconsin right now, I guess. So
no, it's actually going to be really nice today. So we have a predicted high, and check this out, Marengo Mike, of 47 degrees. How do you like them apples? 80s and sunny. Cheers in Cancun, Mexico. I'll take 47 in Wisconsin any day of the week. If you want to take this morning's Sports Carnival poll question, which I'd love you to do, jump up to our Facebook group page where we've now got, Matt, 354 members and growing every single day. Our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. What was the worst? I was going to say the most disappointing. What was the worst part of the Super Bowl from last night? That late PI on the Eagles, which was a hold, yes, but when they called it, maybe something they could have not called. Was it the halftime show? Matt, you and I were hearing a lot of different folks say a lot of different shit about Rihanna in this halftime show. What about the Super Bowl commercials? Where are you guys at with this? What did you think was the worst? And again, take this morning's poll question on both the Facebook group page and our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney. Listen, we've got a lot still to talk about with Mahomes and a lot still to talk about with the Super Bowl and the football on the field. But Matt, what was the number one thing that you heard about the Super Bowl halftime show? Why people didn't like it?
Well, overall, the problem was obviously it's overproduced, in my opinion, because it takes forever, and then people can't really enjoy the show as much because it takes forever to get through it. And then afterwards, you heard that Rihanna might be pregnant with her second child.
She looked a little prego.
At the same time, she did out there and she killed it. She did her job. I could not have gone up 4 stories or whatever she went on that elevator. There's no way in hell I could ever done that. So I guess I think it was just one of those things where either NFL true fans either want to sit there and they want to watch the game, they want the Super Bowl to be over, or the people at home actually get to enjoy the Super Bowl that can actually listen to it if you're at home, not in a bar, unless they have the audio on, etc. But it's too much of a production, I think, and that's where I would go with it.
You know, I like we said with Joe, I think the biggest hurdle to jump over was last year's Super Bowl show, like the halftime show, because that was such a banger for guys, again, in my age range,
100%.
So that was such a good show, and it got such good ratings and such good reviews. I think it was hard to overcome that. I really do. What isn't hard to overcome, and Matt, this is something you and I did yesterday as well. We went on to BetUS, and if you go to betus.com, enter promo code Carnival, you get 125% free play money on deposit. Okay, you put in $100, they give you $125 for free. Jason Kaminsky is checking in with us from our YouTube feed, and he says, finally won on a good Super Bowl bet, taking the Chiefs live bet at halftime plus 290. That is a very good bet. That is a very good bet. Matt, we took the over.
Yep.
We had that before the game started. That was my official play of the week. But plus 290 at halftime for Jason Kaminsky, that's great. You know what that means? That means that they thought, the bettors, the sharp bettors, the ones that put in, the odds, they thought the Eagles were going to run away with this thing at halftime. It didn't look great for Kansas City going into the second half. Mahomes got not sacked, but he got tackled, and that ankle looked a little shaky.
I'm also going to say with this, not only were they shaky, they came out in the second half. They outscored Philly going forward, but we're talking about the worst things about what we saw yesterday on the poll. I'm going to say the best things about happening yesterday was that we won on betusa.com. So that's where I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, that's what we should go with, because we're like, all right, we got some free fucking money,
And they're a great sponsor. And we're just keeping it out there. It's good to see that obviously Jason won, and hopefully everybody, obviously I listened to you, so that helps out a lot too, so you know what you're talking about.
I might be giving people too good of predictions. That's not either for here nor there, but yeah, you listen to me, you can make some money. And again, free money is sitting out there for you at BetUS. Just go to betus.com again, enter promo code Carnival, and claim that free money that you get on deposit. Jeff Zelke is checking in with us this morning and not asking, but saying this, Maddie. Rihanna being pregnant explains all the groaning and thrusting, or growing thrusting. I wonder if that's growing thrusting or groaning and thrusting. He says it was almost a subliminal message by the NFL to increase the United States population. We have a declining birth rate, right? We do.
Yeah.
We have a declining birth rate.
I think everybody in the world does. Look at China and everything else. They're all sons and everything else, but nobody wants to get married. Nobody wants to have kids, I guess, for the most part.
Gotcha. Jeff went on to correct himself. Rihanna being pregnant explains all the groin thrusting at her. I get it now. That must have been a voice to text or something. The groin thrusting. You see, I didn't necessarily, without the sound on, guys and gals, I didn't get it, right? So I didn't get the show. I couldn't really tell you if I thought it was good or bad because I didn't get it. Now, I probably got as much of it from watching it as I would have listening to it, but it's hard for me to say, right? Because I heard Rihanna's a good singer. Watching what I did on the screen, I thought, okay, this is a thing, but really it just, like most halftime shows, it just took too long.
I guess what I heard, it didn't sound like tennis.
It didn't sound like tennis. Do you ever remember when Adam Sandler still did comedy tapes and he had the comedy tape with the bit? Can you tell if they're having sex or working out?
Oh, yeah.
You remember that one?
100%.
Okay, is this guy working out or having sex? That's okay. Yeah. Maybe what some people thought. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Jen Bank is checking in this morning. Hi, Jen. And she says, good morning, gents. Great game last night. It was. It really was. It was a really good game. And I think that if you're a football fan, if you're a football purist, there's no way, except for possibly that pass interference, which, again, wasn't great. That holding call, the time in which they called it wasn't ideal, but it was a hold, right? It really was.
Well, he even admitted it.
Well, of course he did, because you can get – listen, how many holds do you think there are in a game? I'm going to go out of –
every day.
Every fucking play.
Yep.
There's a hold on somebody.
Yep.
So the idea that they call it in that moment being something that upsets fans of the Philadelphia Eagles, I totally get it, or even football fans. But my main point is, kind of like Jen Bank was saying, it was a great game. If you're a football fan, you pretty much have to be happy with how this game played out because it was exciting. You had a back and forth affair. It was close up until the final seconds of the game. The thing was tied with 8 seconds left before that field goal by Harrison Butker goes in, which again, wasn't necessarily, it was in a really good spot, but wasn't necessarily a gimme. He doinked the first one, Matt, of the game.
Yeah, you had to point that out to me because I was busy and I didn't even know that he missed it because there's always different plays in every game that could change it. It's not always going to be down to one play, one holding call, one penalty. Things happen. Shit happens in the NFL. I guess my thing is I still think, in my personal opinion, which doesn't mean anything, The Chiefs got robbed on that fumble. I thought that was a catch, picked up, talked back for scoop 6. And I don't even know if Goddard out of South Dakota State, walk on, great for him, great journey coming in the NFL. I still don't think if he caught that catch going out of the out of bounds, he bobbled that too. So, I mean, there are so many plays that happen in every game and every situation, and you just can't blame it on just one play all the time.
No, you can't. And I think that that's always what we try to talk about. At least I do. Anytime we're talking about sports is you look at the game in totality. If you didn't want that one call to be the one that beat you, be up by 15, right? Like seriously, blow the other team out. If you don't want the referees to be the reason that you're losing, then don't put yourself in that position. In this particular case, look, was it a hard call to make at the time? Yes. Do you want the referee to have to be a story about going in to the offseason? No. But he made the right call. And I'm not entirely sure, like Joe said, if it was a catchable ball. Really, those things are irrelevant to the conversation because on that particular route, right? Because it wasn't a slant, he was going on a wheel or an out route. You had to, I mean, if he didn't get held, who knows what would have happened, right? There was a little jersey tug. Do I think it warranted necessarily the call of that particular moment? Yeah, because it was a hold and you kind of have to hold or kind of have to call the hold. Now, there were many calls that they missed during the game, but I think the referee, as much as we want to say that this thing is scripted and there's a narrative, which I push back on a lot, the referee doesn't think about it like, well, I missed a holding call earlier in the game, so I can't call one now or else somebody's going to think I'm being biased. Like, that's not what goes through a referee's mind.
They don't have time.
No, it's bang, bang. Yeah. It is what it is. And in that particular case, yes, it definitely seemingly benefited the Kansas City Chiefs. But Rob Dog, you were checking in earlier, talking about the script writers here. I don't think they wanted Mahomes to necessarily win. It's just that you put yourself in that position if you're the Chiefs with the big run by Patrick Mahomes with that particular play. You put yourself in a position where luck favors the prepared, right? That's an old Chinese proverb. Luck favors the prepared. And the more that you put yourself in a position to be prepared for those big moments, the more that luck seemingly is going to go in your direction. So I can't necessarily say one way or the other that was the worst part of the Super Bowl. I can't necessarily say that it was the halftime show or the commercials. That's what I'm asking you guys for. So go to our Twitter feed at the Sports Carney, where right now the late PI on the Eagles is getting 50% of the votes, or our Facebook group page where the late PI on the Eagles is getting that 51% of the votes. And let us know what you thought the worst part of Super Bowl 57 was. Listen, when we come back, because we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Patrick Mahomes and what kind of rarefied air Patrick Mahomes is really in right now, because he is in rarefied air. But we've also got to talk about another quarterback situation, Matt, that you and I started noodling on this morning, because it's kind of fascinating. Derek Carr of the Las Vegas Raiders ain't going to do a goddamn thing to help the Raiders out. He's
I
not
either.
I wouldn't either. He's not going to help him with the trade. He's not going to help him with getting out of this big contract guarantee before the due date is.
$$1 million.
Oh yeah, I want $4 million. But we got to talk Derek Carr, because where's this guy going and what is this going to mean? I think there's a lot of implications around the NFL for that. So fascinating story. We'll be back here in about 60 seconds. This is the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios with, guess who? Matt from the Recovery Room.
Preferred Insurance is the official auto, home, business, flood, and life insurance agency of the Sports Carnival, serving folks in La Crosse and surrounding areas with licenses in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa. As an independent insurance agency, Preferred Insurance is free to find the very best insurance for you, your family, or your business needs. Call my friends at Preferred Insurance today and set up a free consultation. Remember, working with an independent agency means Preferred Insurance works for you, with you, to find the best solutions at the best prices.
Hello, I am Don Francisco, and I roast and blend coffees for your pleasure and mine. My newest blend is Vanilla Nuts. The coffee so rich and so sweet, it tastes like the French Alps has dangled its in your cup of java. If you love coffee like I do, then you'll love Don Francisco's, with a 135-year tradition. Because at Don Francisco's, if you're up all night, so are we.
Welcome back, Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios, powered by the Recovery Room and also powered by our good friends Kyle Cable at One Trust Real Estate. Kyle sold my house, Maddie, in Stoddard in literally 2 days. He says it took longer than that, but it didn't. We had a little issue at first with an offer, and then we went to another offer, and Kyle, with his expertise and his years of service in real estate, was able to figure everything out and just make it as seamless of a process as you could possibly imagine. If you're buying or selling a home, perhaps you're an investor looking to invest into real estate, which is always a good idea. Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, is the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival. Our buddy Anthony and Brian over at Preferred Insurance, Tony and Brian, downtown La Crosse, opening up a new branch coming up soon, is the official insurance provider of the program. They work with all the big national brands to get you the very best prices on your insurance. And of course, our friends at BetUS, where if you go online, betus.com, and enter promo code CARNIVAL, when you make your initial deposit, you're going to get 125% free play money. And that does come in handy, especially if your name is, oh gosh, we had so many messages coming in here. Jason, I was like, Jason Comiskey, who said he finally won a good Super Bowl bet, taking the Chiefs live at halftime, plus 290. That is a great bet. Again, go on to betus.com and get your free money. Enter promo code CARNIVAL. All right, so we've got Patrick Mahomes, Matt, now in some really rarefied air.
100%.
Patrick Mahomes is 27 years old. Yep. He's the 13th quarterback in NFL history to win multiple Super Bowl championships. He was not uber spectacular as far as his numbers were concerned last night. 21 for 27 with 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he did have 44 rushing yards, including that big scamper where the Chiefs needed him to be able to muscle a first down, and he does. And that essentially was what put the Chiefs into position to kick that game-winning field goal. I understand there was that PI and all those other things, but that was the real moment in which the Chiefs got themselves to that position to win the Super Bowl by getting Harrison Butker to that field goal spot, at least a makeable field goal spot. And of course they do, and win the game 38-35. But Patrick Mahomes, Matt, now is in like super rarefied air. The 13 quarterbacks in NFL history to win multiple Super Bowls, that in and of itself is elite company. But some of those guys include Eli Manning, right? We don't consider Eli Manning to be an elite all-time best ever type quarterback. Was he very good? Yes. Was he a durable Iron Man? Yes. Is he part of the Manning legacy? Yes. But he's not an elite all-time guy. Patrick Mahomes, though, is. You were putting together a little list of guys, though, that have won multiple Super Bowl MVPs. This becomes a very, very limited category. So why don't you run that down for us, because you did the hard work of putting that on paper for us this morning.
I agree with what you're saying with Eli Manning. Obviously, it's the Giants. Whether he had a better career than his brother or not, that's up for for wherever. But Tom Brady, 5 MVPs. Super Bowls. Joe Montana, 3. You got to remember he had won 4, but Jerry Rice got 1 MVP in that. You got Terry Bradshaw, 2. Bart Starr with 2, and now you have Patrick Mahomes with 2. Now, granted, the NFL has changed a lot since Bart Starr and Bradshaw were in the game, whether or not they deserve them or not. But at 27 years old, I guess where I was going to throw this to you, it kind of brings me up with LeBron in Miami. Are we going to win 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? If this kid, and obviously Andy Reid said he's coming back, so they're staying together. Not only is Patrick Mahomes in a airified category, so is Andy Reid. So if they come back together, next year could be just as fun, if not even more fun to watch, especially with what they have going with as Joe said earlier, look at the options, the weapons, everything. Their cap hit's not going to be that bad. They could roll this back another year ago. Yeah.
They're already the betting favorites right now at betus.com. I was taking a look, Matt, at the Super Bowl odds for Super Bowl 58, which they already have up here, by the way. If you want to make some money, get on this now, because the odds are only going to get, they're only going to get more in favor of teams like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles as the season gets going. You would kind of imagine Kansas City plus 600, Buffalo second at plus 750. Then you've got Philly at 750 as well, and the San Francisco 49ers coming in at plus 800. So the odds makers already have.
Where are the Packers on that?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's go all the way down the list here and see where we find.
The Bears are probably at the bottom.
They are at plus 3,300.
Hoping he comes back
just
out of the darkness.
Yes, just below the Miami Dolphins, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, Denver Broncos, Baltimore Ravens, New York Jets, Chargers, Cowboys. So just behind those teams.
All right. Well, it's
Not
a free
far.
for all. It's the NFL.
It's the NFL. Listen, I think that Mahomes, and we've got the slide up now, it is when we say he's doing it again, he's doing a lot of things again. He's winning his second MVP. He's winning another passing title. He's really lifting this Kansas City franchise, who had not won a Super Bowl since, what was it, Super Bowl 4, prior to a couple of seasons ago when they won that Super Bowl, the first in 50 years for Kansas City. You know, he's really putting not only this team, but the city on his back. And look, the names that you have as far as multiple Super Bowl MVPs, we've got Joe Montana, right? You've got Eli Manning, is a multiple-time Super Bowl MVP.
Bart Starr, Bradshaw, obviously Brady. I mean, he's
Right.
up there. He's up there.
Right. We're talking about a very elite category of guys, and Patrick Mahomes deserves all the credit. Now, I do think it's interesting. We've got the deal checking in on YouTube saying a majority of the gambling money was on the Eagles. So it's no surprise that KC won last night. Well, you know,
I don't think Vegas is happy then, brother.
well, if most of the money was on Philly and Kansas City won, they're very happy, because that would mean that most of the money was.
I get what you're laying down.
And see, I would have to check on that across the board. I don't know that that's true. You know the deal, so I can't say that I totally agree with that take. But realistically, from what I was seeing, this was about as even of a split as far as the money was concerned in a Super Bowl that we've seen in a long time. And that's why the odds makers had this thing so close, because you had it as a pick 'em to start. Then it went Philly -1, -1.5. The total ostensibly stayed right about the same. Okay. It opened at, I think, 50, maybe went up to 51 in some shops. 50.5 is where we took it at. But this was a really close matchup. So I didn't see that Philly had taken most of the money, but I do think that's interesting. I really do. Let's see. Rob Dog from Stoddard is checking in here. Matt, you're going to like this because, Matty, you grew up a Bears fan.
Yep.
Your brother works in the NFL now, so you've kind of given up allegiances in some respects. But Rob Dog says Super Bowl 58 champs, the Bears, but he's got a laughing emoji.
I mean, are you trying to go 58 or 85? Because if you want to go old school, I mean, that's before. I mean, if you look at the Bears and the Packers, they had championships before the Super Bowl was even created. So if you want to go that route, we can go down that route. I guess I'm going to throw this back at you with being two things that Patrick Mahomes again yesterday. My favorite player, I think the play that he made the best play was that when he's trying to get sacked, he did that little like Brett Favre shuffle pass to Kelsey. One, that kept the drive going, and two, the stat that we talked about earlier that a lot of people don't bring up. Patrick Mahomes did not take one sack yesterday. For as good as everybody's talking about the Eagles' front defense, their line, and everything else, the Kansas City Chiefs' offensive line showed up yesterday, and that probably was one of the biggest factors that a lot of people aren't considering on how the Chiefs end up winning out the game. Yeah,
that's fair. The 0 sacks allowed by the Chiefs is definitely something to take into consideration, because you're right. I mean, the Philadelphia defense had been so ferocious that not getting to the quarterback at all,
especially on a bum ankle,
one that they ended up looking like they injured, right? A little bit on one of those plays at the end of the first half when he was going for a little scramble and they were able to tackle Patrick Mahomes. It looked like his ankle was really injured. Yeah. The fact that Kansas City gave up 0 play by these teams was so exceptional. Both the offensive and defensive lines were incredible last night for both teams. I mean, listen, Philadelphia, as ferocious of a front as you're going to have, but that Kansas City offensive line, which again, most of their positions grade out pretty good as far as the Pro Football Focus grading system goes, but they did have a guy, and I can't remember if he was the right or the left side of the line, that was ranked like 63rd in the league this year. So that was a little bit of a concern going in, but they held up well. You know, the deal again says failure by the NFL. Instead of talking about the great overall play of both teams, the only topic is the refs. Well, it's not the only topic. And I realize that that's going to be a big topic, because that's a narrative that, listen, half of the fans of last night's Super Bowl, maybe Philadelphia fans, thought that they got on that hold. I didn't think so. I thought it was a call that they probably needed to make. I understand the timing wasn't great. I don't think they were doing it to be skewed in any direction, but it did have a very big impact on the game. It really did.
I guess my point with this too is Goodell came out last week, 345 Park Avenue. Roger Goodell came out and said, our referees are the best they've ever been, this, that. And obviously, that's what he's going to say. He's paid by the owners to say that. He's one of the most highly paid executives in the NFL. What else is he going to say? But at the same time, I think that the NFL rule book's bigger than our constitution or our bylaws. So, I mean, they have to
it is.
whittle down some of the stuff here and there. It is what it is. I guess at least we don't have to deal with like Angel Hernandez in MLB baseball. But it is. I mean, they're human beings. It sucks. It is what it is. But the worst part is when it comes down to the money, and the referees should never screw up the game or anything where the money line changes. And that's never going to change because we don't live in a perfect world. They're not perfect. We're not robots. You're just going to have to roll with it. I do agree with him, but I also disagree with Roger Goodell saying that they're the best ever. They're never going to be perfect, but they could be better. Pay them full-time employees. Make them full-time employees.
That's something that I've never understood is how they're not full-time, like Ed Hockley, right? Like Mr., chairman of the arms, but he was an attorney.
And then you have accountants, you have professors. These guys with this billions of dollars in the NFL. The fucking NFL makes more money than almost anything else in the world. Pay these men and women full time, and we would have less issues.
So basically, you're talking about this like being a real job.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm with you on
the
that
amount of money that's on it. Why not?
Well, and I think that the NFL started talking about that, right? Like they've been mentioning through the years that they wanted to sort of go in that direction. I feel like the season, because of the 16, 17, 18 weeks now that we've got in it, it makes it seem too short to keep them on full time, but I would keep them on full time for training, right? You want them to be always training, always learning, always trying to grow. We'll see if that happens. But here's something, guys, that we haven't brought up. And I see that Thomas from UWL and Rob Dog are both bringing this up, how slippery the football field was yesterday.
It was horrible.
So it's interesting because in Arizona, and I've been to that stadium, great place to see a game, by the way. They take the grass, it's real grass, so it grows outside, and then it comes right back in. You know what? I didn't notice that. That's something that was lost on me because Rob Dog says the grass from the Super Bowl was horrible. I didn't notice that. You saw that though.
Yeah, it was slippery. There was no footing. I mean, from what I was able to watch in the game before we go back and forth, and then obviously I read online, went on ESPN Pro Football Talk. Every player on the field was just, they could not, their cleats weren't working. I don't know if they could change out their cleats. They didn't do that.
Interesting.
Especially for Arizona, when it's beautiful inside and outside. I don't understand why the NFL would have these problems. It's grass field, like you said. There's so many NFL stadiums that need to get away, in my opinion, from turf and go to grass because you see so many ankle injuries, so many knee injuries, everything else. But it's the Super Bowl. Once again, how are they not prepared for the biggest game of the year? The NFL makes billions of dollars, have your best referees, have the best field, have the best camera coverage. Was there. It was great. I still think he's going to be better than Tom Brady. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Tom's going to take a year off, and then he'll be looking to come back. So Greg Olsen, we do get him for another year. That was one thing that I missed. I guess I'll have to go back and sort of rewatch some of the plays again, some of the highlights to see how slippery that grass was. But I think the NFL, as much as they try to do right, it's kind of like doing this show, the Sports Carnival. You feel like everything's going to go right, but what if your internet just shuts down? Think about in 2011, Baltimore, San Francisco, and the power goes out at the Superdome, like during halftime.
Well, it happens all the time. I mean, I'm sorry, Ravens, Kaepernick, 49ers. Yeah. It happened.
So let me ask you though, because you had an issue at the bar the other day, okay? And I'm wondering if maybe the same thing happened at Super Bowl, whatever that was, in 2010. Do you think that possibly some people were just plugging too many things, too many, plugs into an outlet without using a surge protector?
Well, I think it might just be a flip of a switch, which you can do in a bar or a house. But when you have a stadium packed with, 70,000 people. I mean,
so you don't think there was a whole bunch of people running around Mercedes-Benz Superdome, just like trying to plug a whole bunch of things into the same outlet and keeping overloading a specific circuit,
I'm
right?
Go back to like the Johnny Manziel commercials when he was with the Browns, and you had those commercials, and he was running the stadium, cleaning up, sweeping up. Maybe he knew where that one main circuit breaker was, and just
was that Johnny Manziel or was that Baker Mayfield?
No, it was
that was Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, it was Baker. Sorry, you got me. Browns. But yeah, somebody's going around. I don't like the score of the game. Let's just flip the switch and go from there. Screw it.
Okay, let's see. And this is, I believe, we've got a friend of ours checking in on a Facebook group page, says the grass was slippery because of all the painted graphics on it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Some of those are like overlaid, right, with graphics that you can do on screen. All right, we're going to step aside, take our final little break here of this morning's Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center studios. Really appreciate all you guys and gals checking in with us this morning. YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch. Keep them coming. We'll be back.
Now more than ever, if you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps an investment property, you need a full-time dedicated real estate agent who is up to date on all the latest trends and analysis and is ready to give you the kind of service that you deserve. That's why the official real estate agent and the official real estate partner of the Sports Carnival is Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate. Whether you're looking to buy or sell your first home or perhaps you are a seasoned investor, call the official real estate agent partner of the Sports Carnival, Kyle Cable of One Trust Real Estate.
Hello, this is Professor Fission for Nuke and Nuke Light, the world's first nuclear beer. Brewed and nuked in 1956 and recently found in Warehouse 14. How's it still fresh, you may ask? Well, thanks to our friends Cesium-137, Stromium-90, and Plutonium-239, these beers will stay fresh for another 90 years. Not only does Nuke and Nuke Light have 10 times the kick, but you're sure to be a hit at the party because it helps your urine glow in the dark.
Nuke and Nuke Light. Pick up a case today before it melts through your grocer's floor. And Duluth Care. Yummy.
Sports Carnival just keeps on rolling here, live from the Trauma Center studios, powered by the Recovery Room. Again, Recovery Room open at 4 p.m. today. This is a Monday. Tonight we've got bingo from 7 until 9. Matt, you're going to let me host bingo again, I guess.
Yes, sir. You're very good at it. And obviously your voice carries. People love coming to see you. So hopefully everybody comes in again today.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. We want to entice you if you didn't spend too much time with us at the Recovery Room last night, which it was so great to see all our friends out there, especially Morning Wood and Evan. And we had, Kyle and Hannah, the whole name Hollywood. Had a really good time at the Recov last night. Tonight from 7 to 9, we have bingo, and we've been having a lot of fun with bingo recently. So come on out. First card is free. Buck after that. Lots of great prizes. Our good friends over at Jameson. Last week, Matt hooked us up with a whole bunch of really cool Buck swag, which I know people were really excited to wear and to see. We had a really cool Packers blanket, which was given away during our blackout round. So lots of great prizes.
Was that the Aaron Rodgers blackout round?
That was the Aaron Rodgers Total Darkness Tour 2023.
Just making sure.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Aaron Rodgers, little known fact, is now going to be doing a tour with Metallica. It will be the Aaron Rodgers, Fade to Black with Metallica tour coming to stadiums nowhere near you, mostly in South America. They're thinking Peru, places in which ayahuasca is very prevalent. But that's just been announced here recently.
He'd look really good with the Nick Cage look, being on stage.
I agree.
With, just rock the flocks and,
Yeah.
You pull it off.
I agree. Totally. 100%. All right. I want to change gears a little bit from Super Bowl 57. We'll be talking about the Super Bowl all week, I'm sure, because there's so much to unpack. Patrick Mahomes reaching a historical status. Where this guy ranks, we were already talking about this, not just last week, but in the years that Patrick Mahomes has been in the NFL, seemingly since this guy's taken over as a starter, he has been everybody's dandy because he is just so unique. He's so different, and the guy just wins. 5 consecutive AFC championships, 3 trips to the Super Bowl so far, and 2 Super Bowl victories. He's 27 years old.
And 2 MVPs.
And 2 MVPs, and 2 Super Bowl MVPs, plus the guy is passing the ball at a rate in which we really haven't seen many times in the history of the league. And I know the game's changed, but Patrick Mahomes is just blowing us all away. So we'll talk a lot more about the Super Bowl, I'm sure, as the week progresses on. Tomorrow we'll have Matt Janis on, Matt, from UWL. Wednesday we'll have Mike Schmidt on. We'll also be looking forward to talking to good buddy Nate from The Good Fight this upcoming week, because The Good Fight's got a spaghetti dinner that they would love you to participate in. Buy a ticket to the spaghetti dinner. It's on Saturday. A very good price, goes to a great cause. The Good Fight is really doing some good work for folks here in the community of lacrosse, especially, that really need that help. But
helping out the youth of the nation.
They very much are. And the youth of at least our nation, which is important to us. I do want to talk, though, about Derek Carr this morning, because Derek Carr is a guy that I think gets, not enough credit for what he's probably done right for the Las Vegas / Oakland Raiders, and probably too much blame for what's gone wrong there. Derek Carr is by far the best passing quarterback in the history of the Raiders statistically. Over 35,000 yards and 200 touchdowns. But he's not necessarily the greatest winner in Raiders history, which, again, the Raiders have a storied history, mostly prior to the current NFL, if you will, but they have a storied history. Point is, Derek Carr's a good quarterback. Not great, but he's a good quarterback. Derek Carr will not help the Raiders, according to reports that we have seen come up this morning, will not help the Raiders with a trade. Apparently, there was only one team, and we think it was the Saints because he met with the Saints. We don't know, but we think it was with the Saints. There was only one team reportedly, Matt, that was willing to trade for him. They wanted Carr to take a pay cut. Derek Carr also said that he would not extend the deadline for the $40 million guarantee to kick in on his contract, meaning essentially the Raiders are going to have to cut him, right? They're going to have to release Derek Carr. And this means Derek Carr is now a free agent. Now, what the market for Derek Carr is as far as the dollars are concerned, I don't know necessarily. I think Derek Carr could do himself a lot of favors by going to a team, Matt, that not anybody has talked about yet. A team that you would say, I don't know if he would fit there because they've already got these two guys they're drafting, but one in which I think he could win a Super Bowl with. I think Derek Carr would be smart to take a one-year deal with San Francisco.
I think Derek Carr should just hold out, do what he's doing right. I guess you look at the market. What is Daniel Jones going to get from New York?
A lot.
I would see what he's going to get, whether it's a 1-year deal or a 2-year deal. I think Derek Carr should do exactly what you're talking about. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks who were drafted ahead of him. He's one of the only ones still in the NFL. You had Blake Bortles, Johnny Manziel not in the league. Teddy Bridgewater basically not in the league.
Yeah, Bortles is out. Manziel's out. Bridgewater is.
Derek Carr is still one of the, in my opinion, a top 10, I'll go top 12, 15 quarterback in the NFL. He should get paid. He's not as mobile as he used to be, but he doesn't need to be. And I'm sorry, Al Davis, you've been dead and gone. All you need to do is win, baby. The Raiders have not doing that underneath your son. And now you're going to screw it up even more by getting rid of, like you said, the best passing quarterback in their franchise history. Who are you going to replace him with?
That's the question. They've got a high draft pick this year, but again, I'm not seeing anybody in this year's draft that I would take over Derek Carr. I'm really not. I understand that the money implications for Las Vegas are real and they need to make this decision. I get it. It's a business decision. So like I said, I'm not sure what the market for Carr is as far as financially goes. There are going to be suitors. You mentioned the Giants. What if they don't want to give Daniel Jones the bag and they say, hey, Derek, you want to come here? I might take a look at that. What if the Jets don't get Aaron Rodgers? What about the Titans? You're looking at teams like Houston, where his brother played, David Carr.
Yep.
Okay, what about the Colts? That's another team that you could have
Carolina,
an opening
Tampa.
for. Carolina, Tampa. There are a lot of teams. To me, it's like this. I think that if Derek Carr were to do something that doesn't happen as much in the NFL as it does in, let's say, the NBA now, where guys take these one-year prove-it deals. They say, look, I'll go to this team 1 year, and I'm going to prove that I should be paid in a major way, or at least give myself a chance to prove that I'm a winner. I would see if the 49ers are open to something. I know that Raider fans, and I talked about it with Tim, our buddy who goes downstairs to the Recov a lot. He's a Raiders fan who loves Carr, hates the 49ers. But I said, if I'm Derek Carr, I would see what that market is for me in San Francisco. Because, look, you don't know if Trey Lance is ready to go or not. Brock Purdy is going to be out for at least 6, 7, 8 months, right?
Yep.
So if Derek Carr is able to come in, take a 1-year deal, $20-25 million, basically like half a franchise tag now, right? $20-25 million. You go to San Francisco, the 49ers coaching staff will get the best out of you. We've seen that.
100%.
Okay. So if by week 13 or week 8, Derek Carr is just abjectly horrible, fine. You transition over to Trey Lance. But if you're San Francisco, you have literally been a healthy quarterback away from winning a Super Bowl for the last 6 years. And you just can't get anybody to stay upright for the amount of time it takes to get from the start of the season to the end of the season. That was such a depressing way for San Francisco to have to lose, with Brock Purdy not being able to throw the football and Josh Johnson just completely incapable, and it's not his fault, of stepping in and trying to do anything with that team. I know it might not happen, but I like San Francisco for this guy. I do, because it takes him out of conference from his AFC family, puts him in the NFC, and it gives Kyle Shanahan, finally, a guy that they can say, hey, we can roll with. And if it doesn't work out, then you go to Trey Lance. That's fine. I know they gave up a lot for Lance, but he still cost them nothing.
Well, with what the Jets did and the 49ers did, they gave up way too much for 2 quarterbacks that you don't know if they're going to be proven.
Yes.
I'm going to throw this at you just for speculation. NFC team could use Derek Carr. Maybe they have a quarterback, but they could be Derek Carr away from the Super Bowl, the Detroit Lions.
Oh, God, I wouldn't give up Jared Goff for him yet.
I don't know. I would.
Jared Goff was a Pro Bowler this year.
100%, but Derek Carr can throw the ball better than Goff. You have to look at the payroll and everything else. But, hey, if you want to go, and Dan Campbell he would love to have somebody like Derek Carr winging that ball with all the options that they have and stick it at the Packers, the Bears, the Vikings. I'm sorry, the Goff is not that bad, but they are that close away from honestly being a better team in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the quarterback there. I think they'll stay with Goff. I mean, I could make that argument for the Vikings, though. I would be
Cousins,
like, kick this fucker off to the side and then bring in Derek Carr.
Yeah.
At least we know Derek Carr is going to man up and really try to go out there and get that victory. There are spots, Matt. Look, it's going to be a lot of teams that we've mentioned, ones that maybe aren't all that well suited to really help Derek Carr win. And then there's a team that I think would really actually be a good fit, and that's going to be.
Is Seattle going to re-sign Geno?
Yes.
I mean, you hope so. I mean, you think so, but I mean, there's so many options. These guys want to get paid. They want to win. Except for Aaron Rodgers wants to get paid, whether he wants to,
he wants to win at life. That's what Aaron wants to do. He wants to win at life. All right, we're winning at life. We're winning in sports, and we're winning here on the Sports Carnival. Thanks to you guys again. Kyle Cable, One Trust Real Estate, Bet US, my buddy Matt, the Recovery Room, the Trauma Center Studios, Preferred Insurance, of course, Joe Sampson, Helping Hands Landscaping, and Sean O'Neill, the O'Neill Law Firm. Mike Owen from Marengo Mike did ask one thing, and we're going just a tad long here, but I wanted to answer this question, Matt. He asked, what happened with Chad? Why isn't he on the show? Well, if you didn't see Friday's show, which, Mike, it sounds like you didn't, you were on the way to Cancun. Chad had to step away from the show full time. It's not that he won't still be a part of the program. Chad's other job, I know this gets really sticky. His other job ended up going through a transition. The fact that he's on the West Coast made it a little difficult for him to be able to do both. So for the time being, Chad will be with us in different capacities, but we're not losing him forever. We got hit with the dose of reality, and that's just what happens sometimes. But I think, Matt, you and I, we're going to hold down the fort pretty well. This is going to be fun.
We're working on it, brother.
We're getting there. All right, guys, we'll see you tonight at Bingo at the Recovery Room, 7 o'clock until, 9-ish. And we'll also talk to you bright and early tomorrow morning right here on the Sports Carnival, broadcasting live from the Trauma Center Studios.
Peace.
See ya.